to a new world of gods and monsters.
It's alive!
Here's Johnny.
What's your favorite scary movie?
Oh, I'm telling you, brother, it's a frightful sight. See what goes on Halloween night.
Hey everybody, and welcome back to Why We Love Horror, episode 22. We've been going on for 22 years at this point. How you both feeling about that?
One episode a year. We take care. We curate it so nicely for you to chart out one episode a year. The same rate that TMG does their singles tournament.
Melissa, how are you doing today?
I'm doing well. I can't believe we have been doing it for several weeks now, and I still will interrupt, and my mind will go way faster than my mouth, but, you know, we're here.
That's how it usually happens with everybody. Today we are talking Evil Dead Rise and The Night Eats the World, so let's get right into Evil Dead Rise.
I'm getting us out of here. I promise.
You'd be a good mom someday, honey bear.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, you know how to lie to kids. Mom?
Mommy's with the maggots now.
Who would like to describe the plot today?
I mean, I think it needs to be you. Like, it needs to be you.
Fair. Okay, so yeah. Evil Dead Rise starts with two sisters, one Beth and one Ellie. Ellie has a couple kids that live in an apartment complex with her, and Beth comes to visit her. While they're there, an earthquake happens. Little thing opens up. The kids find the Book of the Dead, and all hell ensues with Deadites from there. Easiest way to describe it without going into too much detail or spoiling anything. What did you two feel about this new version of Evil Dead?
Go, Melissa.
Okay. Trying not to interrupt, and now I'm not going. I kind of went into this movie pretty like optimistic and just kind of low expectations, and I had a really great time. I thought there's a lot of good blood and gore. I do like the new kind of location with this movie compared to the other ones. I haven't seen the other Evil Dead movies in a really long time, to be honest, but I really enjoyed this one.
I think the big thing that like horror fans will appreciate is that, you know, Bruce Campbell and Sam Raimi were involved as producers on this movie, yet they took a special care not to step on the toes of the original trilogy. Like, the tone is, some of the cinematography is reminiscent, but I think it's more homage than ripoff, obviously. But it's not a horror comedy. There may be like beats of comedy, but it's not. Yeah. It is not your Raimi Evil Dead. This is a new direction. It's not necessarily as like bleak as Fede Alvarez's Evil Dead. It's a little bit more upbeat, action packed. But I like this direction, and I'll get more into like why I like it in comparison. The other Mike and I were talking for the show and on the air, but it's extremely interesting to me as someone who's been alive the whole time to see what they're doing with the Evil Dead franchise.
Yeah, I agree that it's definitely not as bleak as Fede Alvarez's version, and it's definitely not the comedic version of Sam Raimi's trilogy. I think they found a happy medium with this movie, and I think it works really well. What did you guys feel about how let's start with the opening without spoiling too much here, the opening opens on this cabin right by a lake, and has three characters that nobody really knows. Nobody really saw in the trailer. No one knows who these three are, and one of them is a Deadite. How did you guys feel about the opening?
Yeah, I thought the opening was really, really strong. I was really I was immediately in. I was like, yes. And then the title reveal was so fucking cool. Yeah, no, I thought the opening was really strong. But then it says one day earlier, and I was like, okay.
Yeah, probably best title card drop of 2023 so far, by far. That's an awesome title card drop. It's like the type of Evil Dead. It's in the same vein of when Raimi would go gory and do the kills. It's respectful of that. In the same vein, you get some good effects, you get some good possession, or when the girl turns, the whole thing is great. But yeah, Melissa's right. When they went one day earlier and then everything just switched, and I was like, well, how the fuck are they gonna get there? And they don't even, and they take their time with that shit. Believe me, you might even forget the movie started somewhere else. That's how long.
And I think that's kind of why they did it that way, is that they wanted a good setup for the actual story, so they need an opening that just fucking slams you right away. And yeah, you got some great kills in the first 5 minutes of this movie, and then it just pops into the apartment. So yeah, let's jump right into it. Spoilers of this. Well, how did you guys feel about following this new family?
So that's probably my biggest problem of why I didn't outwardly just love it. I really, really liked Alyssa Sutherland.
Yes.
I am actually watching Vikings right now with my husband, so I was like, "Oh, slog!" So it's good to see her. And I thought she killed it in the the Deadite role. But I liked her. I didn't like anyone else. I did not like any of the kids. I did not like our main gal, Beth. So I struggled because I just did not like them at all.
I can kind of see what Melissa's saying. They deliberately didn't cast anybody. They're all working actors and actresses, but they're you will not recognize anybody unless you are with it in this movie. And they're all people that kind of look like other actors and actresses. So it's weird. It's there's a dread in your mind. Do I know these people? Am I a poser the whole time? But you really don't know who they are. The characters are weird. I mean, I'll be honest. My experience, myself and my friend were in a theater. We saw an early matinee showing of it. Only people in the theater. So the one scene when Danny is DJing, we were just making we're just doing because the characters are weird. I will give Melissa that the characters are weird, but it works. Ultimately, it works. And the one thing, without spoiling anything yet, is if you're someone that's been watching horror movies for a long time, you will know what needs to be done. The characters walk past stuff, they drop things, they create things, and you're like, why does that exist if not to stab somebody with it later? And that happens at least 4 or 5 times in the movie. Mm-hmm. That's it's not good or bad, but I see you and I know what you're doing.
Yeah, and I'll agree that it is definitely, for the cast of all 5 of them, I think this is the weakest cast, I would say, especially the kids. But I think it does work overall for the story that they're trying to tell. But yeah, I'll agree with John that they set up so many things by dropping shit or by running past stuff. Different things are going to come back in certain ways in this. And let's talk about the what do you call the parking garage with the earthquake and an opening up to the bank vault. What did you guys feel about that reveal of it being a bank vault?
One thing that is kind of cool, but it's different, and I will leave it up to everybody to judge, because I think some people might be upset and some people might think it's cool, is getting away from the old Book of the Dead that is so recycled it shows up in other movies. The new Book of the Dead is actually pretty cool. I think the new Book of the Dead, with the teeth on it and not much writing, just a bunch, just like a picture book. The picture book of the dead is actually in some ways a little bit cooler than the other thing because there's nothing to read, and it's accompanied by the old school Edison discs that this dumb shit plays on his record player, which you should know better. But I like that. That was a cool upgrade to the Necronomicon, I think, in my opinion.
That part was fine, but this is where I have a lot of problems with the movie, and I'm sorry, Mike, specifically, that I'm gonna like be ripping into this movie today. I just think it's really convenient that the earthquake happens, and then like he jumps down into the hole. Like, come on, an earthquake just happened. Like, you don't do that. There's gonna be aftershocks, like especially if you live in California. Like, these things. Like, we have earthquake drills. I used to live in California. So, like, that just like felt so stupid of it, like a character move that he just like jumps down into the hole. And then like, why is all this like stuff down there in a bank? I guess that part was not connecting with me. Like, what it would have made more sense to me if it was like a church or like just something that would like tie it in more. I'm like, why is all these things at a bank, in a bank vault? I just had a lot of questions.
I think they're banking on the ability to do a prequel sequel to this, because really, like, they set it up. Like, if this movie does well, like they're positioned really well with this movie as the jumping off point. They can go either way.
Yeah, do not not to defend the child, but I will say there's some dumbass kids out there. And if an earthquake happens, there's some stupid fucking kids that would jump in that hole. Just go, hey, that looks fucking cool. Let's check that's out there. What's down there? And speaking of the book, Lee Cronin has said in an interview that talking with Sam Raimi and Bruce Campbell, they kind of came up with that this is one of the 3 books in Army of Darkness. That Fede Alvarez's version has one of the books from Army of Darkness, and then this is the 3rd book. Now, overall, does it look like any of the 3 books that we see in Army of Darkness? No. It doesn't have like the fucking clawed opening, the teeth opening that it does have. But I do like that kind of aspect of it going, hey, we're taking one of the 3 books from Army of Darkness, one that Bruce Campbell uses, that he uses in the Evil Dead trilogy, and then Fede Alvarez uses the other one, and then Lee Cronin uses this one. But yeah, it is straight up a picture book when they open it up. And I do like how it's opened by blood. That's the only way that they can open it, and it's by him getting stabbed with it and blood spilling on it, and it opens up for him.
And I will further defend, as a child, jumping into a hole. Lee Cronin does enjoy holes in the ground, as we all know.
Fair. I did like the book though a lot, and yeah, the artwork in it, like, I know it's like demented, but it's also beautiful in a way. So yeah. I did like that.
Now, I will say, because we still have other stuff to get into before we get into the actual everyone turning into Deadites, Lee Cronin does not give a fuck about those kids at all. Like, right away, he just goes, I'm turning these fuckers as quickly as
Before that even happens, there's the poor neighbor kids. The one kid just gets his arms ripped off and thrown to the walls. Like, oh shit, here we go. All they wanted to do was watch Nightmare on Elm Street. Even the bad ones. That's what happens when you're okay watching the bad ones. You get your arms ripped off and you get thrown into the wall, right, Melissa?
No.
What did you guys feel about the sister Beth coming in to this family, and kind of like the first portion of this is her running into the one of the neighbors, and him basically, in a way, talking shit about her sister, but then also like kind of like hitting on her a little bit.
Well, the running gag that she's a groupie throughout the entire movie. Well, there's one little small piece. We do have an establishing thing that shows that she's not a groupie. She's a guitar tech, and she's pregnant. They established that very early on in the movie, before she even gets to the house.
Yeah, I mean, I think she's literally the weakest part of the film, and I think that's why I struggle with it, because she's kind of our lead protagonist once Ellie turns. And like, she's a beautiful woman. I didn't like the performance though, and like I didn't like the character. Like it did not work for me at all. I was not into it.
Yeah, the one criticism I had that I would, if I was supervising this script, I would have not made the character pregnant, because there is, I mean, again, not a doctor. No way she doesn't miscarry that baby. Like, no way, with the amount of, even just the elevator scene alone, you're losing that baby. Like 100%. There's no way.
Yeah, and I think that was a part of her character that, like, it didn't do anything for me. Like, it didn't add to that. I get that, like, I guess the children's mom turns, and like now she needs to be like a motherly figure as this aunt, I guess. But like, it just wasn't needed.
Yeah, pretty weak. But like, what I'll say, like, spoiler alert for how John feels about the movie. Like, the other shit in this movie's fun as hell. So
yes,
if you're going into it as like a master's level film scholar, you're not going to enjoy this movie. If you're going into it like, holy shit, that's cool, you're gonna love this movie.
Yeah,
I'm somewhere in between.
I'll agree that them making her pregnant, like, I get it for the story purposes of trying to show that this is her transitioning herself to being an actual mom to these kids while all hell is breaking loose. But yeah, we could have done without her being pregnant, because of the fact that, yeah, she definitely would have lost that child through the process of this movie of what happens. But I did like the portion with her and the youngest towards the third half of this movie. I thought that worked for what they were going for, and her choosing between the shotgun and the chainsaw and everything else that ensues with that. Yeah, do you know what? Let's go to the elevator portion right after the earthquake happens, and Alyssa Sutherland as Ellie, which, speaking of the character name, that's one like little Easter egg that I loved, is that every single name in this movie either has something to do with other character names or actors in the Evil Dead franchise. You got the Bruce, you got the Scott, you got Ellie, you got Beth, which is in Beth Davids from Army of Darkness. You got all the names.
Danny, I assume, is Dan Hicks.
Yes, yeah, stuff like that. Yeah, I love that portion. But yeah, what did you guys feel about the elevator and basically this jumping off point of the Deadites?
I will say, for Evil Dead fans out there, when the movie started, my friend turned to me and they said, well, when is the tree rape going to happen? And the tree rape didn't happen, and we don't really get a tree rape at all, which, sorry to spoil it. If you're going into this movie thinking there's a tree rape, don't watch this movie. The tree rape never happened. But they do replace it with an elevator cable contortion act, which is kind of homage to the tree rape. So you get that. And this is the scene where we get that. It very well done. I imagine it's all practical effects, and she's just very flexible, but it looks awesome what they do in this scene.
Yeah, no, I definitely kind of got that too. I was like, okay, this feels like homage to the tree, like in a more, I don't know, 2023 way, I guess, of doing it. And no, I think Alyssa Sutherland was by far the standout in this movie. Like, she has such a striking presence, just pre-Deadite, and then just, I don't know, just like her face with all the makeup and everything, it just works. And she kind of does have like a larger mouth, so when she does like the screams and stuff, it really, really works for me. And yeah, the whole elevator scene was like, it was kind of making me like nervous when I was watching it, and that's good, because that doesn't always happen for me. In this movie, a few different times kind of made me, okay, ouch.
Yeah, I will say, having to take an elevator every day in my apartment, like, these elevators are shit here too. So that's my fear of what happened in that elevator. They like fucking flying down and moving up. That's my fear the entire time of taking that elevator. So seeing this, how they did it, and yeah, it looks like what John brought up. I think a lot of this is practical of what they do, and I think it works really well for what they were going for. And yes, it is definitely an homage to the tree scene, for sure.
And I think the whole elevator scene kind of does lend to like another plot hole that we're probably going to talk about. is I mean, they do mention early in the movie that the building is like slated to be fully condemned, right?
Yes.
So the people that are living there know they're moving, like they're moving out. The family's planning to move out. Everyone's planning to move out. So there's very few cars in the parking garage, but this family does live on the top floor of the building. And it's very weird that we exist on one floor of the building and we never know anything that's going on in the other floors of the building until it gets wrapped up really nicely at the end, which is weird. I will get back to that.
Yeah. And then we get to, okay, so she basically is turned, and the reason she's turned is because, as John brought up earlier, little guy decides to play the records and open the book and unleash the evil onto this fucking apartment complex. And as we get to her, they think that she's dead, so they bring her in the apartment. And that's where she uses, like Melissa brought up, this way she knows how to use her physical features to be creepy, because she even gets that smile, and she's able, like, I don't know how she's able to do it. She's able to do like the Joker-esque.
She has the smile from Smile.
Yeah, like being able to contort her smile all the way up is so fucking creepy looking when she's in that makeup. And all hell starts breaking loose. They have her attack Danny with oh no, not Danny. Which one is it?
The old
Bridget.
Yeah,
Bridget with the eyeball scene, which we see in a lot of the Evil Dead movies, especially the 2013 one, where you get the needle right next by the eye, which is always
it's a tattoo needle too. It's not like a real, it's a tattoo needle, which is crazier, I think.
It's just so good how they do it, and it gets so close to it. And she's able to basically scratch her face in a way while trying to get away. Ellie is able to scratch Bridget's face, and that's how she ends up turning.
I think it's that she scratches her face, then licks her face.
Yes, licks her face, yes. Yeah. What did you guys feel about the first kind of, in a way, battle scene between the Deadeye Ellie and her child?
Yeah, no, it was great. I think it only like gets better from there, personally, because I don't remember that one as well as some of the other scenes, to be honest.
That's the first example of they set up a weapon that you know is going to come into play later. The second they introduce Ellie and she's got the tattoo needle, I'm like, that's going into somebody, 1,000%. Like, and chalk up one for John. Okay, and then I'll get to the rest of them as we get to them.
So then they're able to throw her outside into the hallway and lock the door, and that's where the trailers of the movie come in, because in the trailer, that's one of the biggest scenes of the trailer is her walking by the little peephole, and you get to see her singing to the youngest one. But then we get the next door neighbors, as we brought up, including Bruce and a couple of the others, and they have that scene where she just jumps at Bruce and eats his eye. Like, she rips his fucking eye apart with her teeth. Like, doesn't grab it with her hand, but grabs it with her mouth and just fucking takes his eye out. And then another little Easter egg from Evil Dead, the spitting an eyeball into the other, into the neighbor's son. Or is it the brother? Is it son or brother?
I think those kids are the nephew, the oldest.
Nephew. And he ends up choking on the
That was gnarly.
Invented.
Yeah. What did you guys feel about the little hallway fight scene between the neighbors and Deadeye Alley?
Oh, it was awesome. It's definitely one of the highlights of the movie, and also just like overall the camera work in this movie is really good. Like I loved, the typical Evil Dead, like the that thing. They did a great job on that. But no, I loved the hallway scene. Like I like having that perspective change with like the people, and it was brutal. It was brutal. She was fucking shit up out there.
Yeah. And all your traditional like Deadite things, like the way they look, the fact that they can levitate, nothing is missed out on. The mythology is secure. Like if you're a Evil Dead purist, they don't mess with anything. They don't add anything. They don't take anything away. It's just the tone is just serious, pretty much.
And then we get to Ellie trying to get back into the apartment, and then we find out that Beth has. Oh no, not Beth. I keep fucking mixing up the two names. Bridget, yes, Bridget ends up turning and attacking Danny and Cassie, where they use the broom handle to completely impale her, which I think is one of the great kills in this movie. Is that broom handle scene of.
You mean Stephanie?
Yeah, Stephanie.
Yeah, Stephanie. Yeah.
Shout out to Stephanie.
Yeah.
The second she puts the doll's head on the stick, I was like, and somebody's gonna get killed with that thing.
Yep.
That's stupid. And then also when I'll just spoil another one now. Like Ellie talks to Cassie. She's like, "Have you seen my scissors?" And she throws the scissors under the bed. Like, and those are gonna come back at the end. That's true.
Yeah. There was I was doing the same thing too, which I think that was something like I don't know. It's like I didn't hate it, but it was just like like yes, I see.
I think it was like it was not subtle. Like it wasn't subtle. So like you knew, and like I think if you've watched enough horror movies, you know, and I kind of appreciate that. That's good. That's there for people like us, and also for casual fans, they don't realize it until like oh my god, you're right. So I think for people like that, that's awesome for them. For me, it was just funny.
Yeah.
I do love how big those fucking scissors are too.
Yeah,
like
yeah,
those things are fucking huge. And they show the damage it can do by her cutting off the fucking head and then cutting off the head of the doll and throwing it underneath. Like those things are fucking vicious. But then so Bridget gets taken out for a little bit there. And we're left with Danny and Cassie and Beth trying to deal with the nonsense. And that's when the records come into play, and they're trying to figure out how to exorcise the Deadites. And that's when we get to hear a little bit of Bruce Campbell cameo in this, because he is one of the guys, like you can barely hear it, but he's one of the ones that is basically saying, "Don't open the book. Do you realize it's the Book of the Dead?" You can barely hear it, but
he's the guy yelling in the background. I didn't know that.
Yeah,
I didn't know that.
Like
either.
I looked it up because I was curious. Because I heard that he may have a small part in that. And I guess he had went down there to check out the filming, and Lee Cronin asked him. He goes, "Hey, would you want to do this quick part? All you got to do is read this line, and you're good to go." And he went for it. And I just love that they were able to throw him in some capacity, but. Yeah, how did you guys feel about using the records to? Usually, the records of these movies usually ends up just being hell for the characters. It's how you bring the book alive and how all hell breaks loose. But this one is both. They use it not only to bring on the Deadites, but kind of uses it to their advantage to actually. Finally finished the Deadites. What did you guys feel about using the records and that like halfway mark through the movie?
I like the records. The fact that they're old records, but they play on this modern turntable, kids. So don't forget that. But it's interesting. They do actually kind of address that because like you'll notice when Danny first plays the records, none of the speeds his turntable turns at play the records. He has to physically spin the records. So they were true to form. So that's nice. So really detail oriented records. You have the first record that's just kind of like an introduction. The second record, all hell breaks loose, and the third record's like, oh hey, by the way, this record probably should have come first. But this is how we take care of things. So it's interesting that it was mapped out that way. But I guess there has to be a prequel with these priests. It's too interesting. I think it's coming.
Yeah, I guess like for me, and maybe I don't know, maybe I'm just thinking about this too much, or I don't know, but like on the records they're like saying like I shouldn't have read anything from the book, but like you said, it's just pictures. So what exactly are they reading? Like that part kind of was confusing. to me? Is there a different book with words? I don't know.
Well, if we go by what Mike said earlier, maybe. I mean, if the I guess the purpose of what Lee Cronin is saying in that interview is that all three books will come into play.
Yeah.
Then we actually are creating like a mythos that's like incredibly interesting. And again, Mike and I were talking about this before we got on the air. Like, and we'll get to it at the very end, I guess, of just like where it fits in the universe. It really is actually, I'm committed now, even more than before, to the new Evil Dead.
Well, damn, I missed the powwow before this.
So then we have basically Bridget stabbing Danny, who inadvertently sets Bridget on fire. And this is also when Ellie is using the vents to finally come in and try to, where she's actually trying to rip Beth's baby out of her stomach, which is very like a very like cool scene that they have there of her trying to do that while all the kids are, hell is breaking loose between all three of them. And that's when they're able to use the scissors. That's when the scissors come back into play, and they're able to get her with the scissors. And that's when finally the youngest Cassie, who I haven't even said the name, the youngest kid, Cassie, finally figures out that her mom is actually gone at this point, that it's not her mom anymore, and that she needs to stop feeling bad of trying to fuck up the mom.
Yeah,
What did you guys?
The thing is, like, you see, like when the Deadites turn in this movie, we actually get like the best lines in the movie. Like when Ellie turns and she's like, "Mommy's with the maggots now."
Yeah,
it's not gonna beat that. But then also like when Bridge turns, like, you know, it's a slower process. You actually see her like realizing she's like something's happening, and like she's trying to flush out her system, and she throws up like bugs and everything. Like, ooh, that's nasty. And then Beth finds her and she's like, I don't like it. She's eating glass. She's eating.
Oh, yeah.
It's like, I don't like the, and you see the glass, like she swallows the glass and it comes out of her neck. Practical effects. Double chef's kiss. And then it's like, I don't like things crawling in my tummy or whatever she says. Another great line, great delivery. And then, you know, the fight between her and Danny where he just gets like mauled is also, yeah. It's a series of great things from this point out.
Melissa, what did you feel about that section?
I feel like you guys said everything I was going to try to say, so I'm good.
But, Melissa, I'm sure you were concerned, like, what happened to the cat? Like, we don't know. Like, the cat's there, but we don't see anything happen to the cat. I only hope the cat got away.
Wait, really quick, is this the sequence where she comes in and starts cooking the eggs?
That's way before.
Okay, because I loved that. That was so creepy. Like, oh my god, I was like,
she posted like $30 worth of eggs. $30 worth of eggs. I was like, that's so much money's worth of eggs, and they're not even going to eat them. You know, it's crazy.
But I loved that scene. It was awesome.
And then we get to the final act of this movie where Beth and Cassie are trying to get in the elevator and trying to get away from the rest of the family of Deadites who are now all still moving and all still trying to kill him. And that's when we get the real blood. That's when we finally get to see the Evil Dead blood that we know and love, where it's just a ridiculous amount that's just filling up the elevator. And there's crawling, and they're actually Ellie, Bridget, and Danny are climbing through the top of the elevator trying to get to them in the elevator while the blood is lifting them up further. What did you guys feel of we're finally getting the ridiculous amount of blood that is known from the Evil Dead movies? Not as much as 2013's reign of fucking terror that happens toward the end of that movie, but
I don't know about that. I think this is more.
Yeah, this is a great fucking amount in the elevator.
Yeah. Well, the one thing you kind of glossed over is like it cuts back to the Book of the Dead and it flips through like to one of the final pages where there's like this Lovecraftian creature where basically all the Deadites can merge into one giant humanoid creature with 3 heads and 12 arms, and they become like this spider human. And while the elevator is filling with blood, and they're going to drown in this blood because it's already over Cassie's head, then the creature's trying to get to the top of the elevator. And then, with all that blood, a cubic foot of water weighs 65 pounds, right? So you got to imagine that much blood. It's over the weight capacity of the elevator. And they show you the weight capacity of that elevator is only 900 pounds. So that shit's going to break. And then the cables break and the elevator falls 14 floors. Don't forget where they are. They're 14 floors up. That elevator falls the entire way. And then The Shining happens at the bottom in the lobby. And then here we are.
Yeah, I mean, The Shining's one of my favorite movies of all time, so I loved that homage to that, and it was just a cool scene in general, just like, very claustrophobic feeling of like basically being drowned by blood, and yeah, no, I thought it was great, and I liked the after effect of them all looking, blood soaked,
covered in blood. And we ain't done yet.
Oh yeah, no. Because they are able to get to the parking lot where all hell had broken loose from the beginning of this movie, and they are followed by that combined creature. And as they're trying to flee it, that creature grabs Cassie and is able to take her, and that's when Beth grabs chainsaw, and we finally get the chainsaw part where she is able to she's trying to behead the three heads, all she's trying to do is distract it enough so Cassie can get away, which Cassie does get away and is able to push. They're able to both push this creature into that wood chipper, which I have not seen a great wood chipper kill since Fargo. So
when the kids return at the beginning of the movie with the pizza, they walk past the tree trimming truck with the wood chipper, and I was like, that doesn't belong there.
Yep. Exactly.
What did you guys feel about the wood chipper leading up to the wood chipper and then the wood chipper destruction?
I mean, like John was talking about the creature that forms. I mean, I absolutely loved that. Like, that was something I was not expecting. I absolutely loved that. And yeah, I really enjoyed the wood chipping scene of them going bye-bye.
Yeah, it's kind of like you get like a good little mix of like a lot of different horror elements, because you get the scene where like you've had all this action, right? Now this six-legged, six-armed, three-headed creature comes down, and now it's like a stalking sequence where they're just kind of playing Ring Around the Rosie around the car trying to get away. Then you get the whole Indiana Jones sequence where the thing's coming down and they make it through, but they drag Cassie back in, and now they're stuck on the other side of the grate, and Ellie has to kick her way back into the building. It's everything you could want in like a horror action sequence. They pack it all in there, and this movie is not that long. They pack it all in there.
Which leads us to one last little part here of Ellie, basically Deadeye Ellie telling Beth that she's not going to be a good mom and that she's going to fuck up, and Beth just kicks her in the face.
She calls her a groupie.
And fucking finally puts her into Ellie / the creature into that wood chipper, killing them all. And that's when they leave the building. And then we cut to the next morning where we see the character from the beginning, Jessica, I think that's her name, Jessica, from the opening of this movie, going to the parking lot, knowing that she lives in this building, going for a vacation.
Yeah, I want to know, how did she get downstairs, one? And why did it take her so long to realize the entire parking lot was just literally covered in blood? Like, it took her so long to realize, like, oh, shit.
What did you guys feel about, and then, of course, the unseen force, the Evil Dead force, gets into her as she screams. So what did you guys feel about the closing of this movie, knowing that it kind of attaches itself to the beginning and we find out why those characters were semi-important from the beginning of the movie?
Yeah, I think there's definitely some like plot issues here, like John was kind of alluding to, with like, like how did she get down there? She also just seems like so oblivious that like an earthquake happened and that like there's chaos happening in this building. Like, I don't know what floor she was on. Was that not occurring? Like, I don't really know. It just feels very kind of forced to have these book ending pieces to the movie. it's like I understand. Again, I loved the opening. I was all in, and then it really switched. I was like, okay. So I think maybe that's another reason why I had a hard time just connecting with the family, because I was just like, I liked what I saw at the beginning. But then once we like see everything, it's like, well, okay, I got back in, like I enjoyed the ride, and now we're here at the end, and it's like, okay. I don't know. I was kind of annoyed, to be honest, but I'm sure we're gonna talk about it in a minute. But the kill with the scalp pull that she does, oh my god, I like shook. I was like, that is brutal, but I loved it. It was so creepy.
Yeah, I think, not too late to script supervise this movie, but it would have made a lot more sense if she just like came back to the building the next morning to get her car or something. That would have been better than her like living in that building while all that crap is happening. The elevator falls from the top floor of the building. You don't wake up. The power goes out. There's an earthquake, and you just wake up and you look good, like you're showered and ready to go. You don't have zero chance that happening. But now to finally reveal what Mike and I were talking about beforehand is like, this is the first time in an Evil Dead movie, if you go by Evil Dead 1, Evil Dead 2, Army of Darkness, I'm going to talk about in a second, but even the Evil Dead remake, these are incidents with the Necronomicon that are basically contained throughout the course. Like the good guys win at the end of Evil Dead 1, Evil Dead 2, and the new Evil Dead. Like the Necronomicon possesses some people, one person kills all the possessed people and gets away. In this movie, and Army of Darkness is a separate thing because it's like a war that goes on, but they still contain it at the end of it, right? But in this movie, it gets out. Like it's out in the world now, which really only happened in the TV series. And even in the TV series, it's a series of contained events where Ash is just going and stopping it or wherever it pops up. But this is new. We have not been into this territory with Evil Dead. We don't know what Deadites are going to do with free reign in the real world. So I'm like I said, I'm invested in knowing the backstory with the priests and what happens with Jessica now that she's killed all her friends and she's alone floating over the lake. Where does she go now? Does she go to the diner down the road? I'm in. Where does she go?
Yeah, I will say that them opening it up to the world is a good story element because of the fact that they have now stated that since this movie made money, that Bruce Campbell in an interview said he wants to start making them every 2 to 3 years instead of every 10 years. So we are going to get more Evil Dead stories. So I'm very curious if they're going to continue the story through this storyline or if they're going to do more self-contained stories throughout with these books and with evil. But one thing we did gloss over, so we should talk about, is the beginning kills of this movie with the scalping of the chick, which is extremely brutal, and knowing that it's going from the first person view as she's walking down to the dock, and you kind of think that it's Jessica at first coming up to the guy, but it turns out to be that chick with the fucking ripped off head. And he has the
drone.
Yeah, the drone. I was gonna forget what
which they also pre-up by saying, those rotors can really mess you up if they get too close to your face. Like, great, that's gonna happen.
Oh yeah, like it chops Jessica right in the fucking face and she goes flying into the water, which then you see that she's kind of already fucked up. And her boyfriend jumps into the water because he doesn't really know what the hell is happening, but he jumps into the water to save her, and that's when we get the little Jaws moment from under the water of him being pulled under just a fucking pool of blood just spinning out. How did you guys feel about the beginning kills of the opening kills of this movie that kind of contained to the end?
It sets the tone, definitely, but we do eclipse those later on, obviously.
I thought it was great. Yeah.
But I think with that, is there anything that we haven't brought up that you guys would like to talk about?
Try to see it with nobody else in the theater and yell as loud as you can at the screen. It's great.
Go see it in the theaters for sure. Yeah,
it's definitely worth it. It's awesome.
Which, if you get the original, if you know anything about the original Evil Dead, the marketing of that is that they would bring it to college campuses and shit like that, and you get the people going, cut her up. Like, it would be wild crowds watching these movies. So this is a perfect movie to get a rowdy group of people to just yell at the screen of when kills are happening. But I will say before we get to the actual ratings of it, Melissa brought it up earlier, but Alyssa Sutherland is definitely the standout performance of the movie. I think she did extremely well as a mom and as a Deadite. She pulled it off perfectly. I loved every second of her performance. But yeah, let's get to our ratings of VHSs 0 through 5. I will start because it's been pretty clear how much I enjoyed this movie. Yeah, I think this is... I would consider Evil Dead to be one of the most consistent horror franchises that have come out. I've loved every single one of them in some capacity or another. So yeah, I got 5 out of 5 VHS tapes. I absolutely love this movie, and I can't wait to see where they go from here because there's so many other stories they can tell, including hopefully bringing back Bruce Campbell at least one more time as Ash, connecting to one of these stories. Let's go to Melissa. Melissa, what did you rate Evil Dead Rise?
So it's funny. Both of the films tonight, I have him and Hod, the rating. And I have changed the rating so many times on Letterboxd. I'm gonna go with 3.5. I think that's just where I stay. I think it's like a high 3.5 though. Like I keep like wanting to push it to a 4, but I'm like, no, like I keep talking myself out of it. I don't know. I think overall it's a really fun time. Love the gore, love the blood. I thought Alyssa Sutherland was absolutely awesome as the main Deadite in this movie, but there's just things that bothered me enough that I couldn't excuse them, which sucks because there's certain like horror movies and just movies in general where I can kind of like go, and like still enjoy it. But for some reason, there's just certain things with this movie that just bugged me enough that I just can't go to a 4 or higher.
That's fair. John, how about you?
Also, things that bugged me about this movie, and I've talked about all of them. But like, I had enough fun that I am hanging on with one hand to a 4. Like you've got me there. I'm at a 4. I'm just with one hand though. Like it almost was a 3.5. But like it's just so much fun. Like all like the line delivery. Like honestly, like the gotcha line deliveries, everything. I do think if we go down this road and they introduce Bruce Campbell as Ashley J. Williams, they got to be real careful because like that is gonna lean. That's not even gonna lean. That's gonna tilt and fall headfirst into a pool we call self-parody, and I don't think that's the direction Evil Dead is going. I'd be interested to see how they pull it off, but I think that would be a mistake unless they totally change Ash. Like I need more Sam Axe, less Ashley Williams.
Completely fair.
Yeah.
Well, that was Evil Dead Rise. Let's move on to The Night Eats the Walls.
Come here, kitty. You hungry?
Who would like to do the plot for this movie?
I'll do this one. Why not? So we've all been there. Maybe not Melissa, but we've all been there. Sam is trying to get his belongings back from his ex-girlfriend. She has a box full of his cassette tapes, and he's a musician, so it's very important he gets those back. And, you know, she's blowing him off. She's having this huge party at her house. All he wants is his cassette tapes back. He gets hit in the face by accident. He's too tired. He locks himself in the back bedroom. He passes out in a chair. And when he wakes up, the zombie apocalypse, he missed the entire thing. And it's all about Sam's life after that.
I like it. That's perfect. How did you guys feel about basically new version or could be considered an actual version of I Am Legend in a way?
I'm going to quote the great Kirk Kolakowski. We love you, Kirk. Does I Am Legend better than I Am Legend? Yes, it does.
So something about this movie made me realize I have a lot of blind spots in this genre of film. I have not seen I Am Legend. I have not seen 28 Days Later or any of those movies. There's like a few others that came to mind. I was like, oh boy, I need to watch some of these. But yeah, so I don't understand the reference, but I'll agree.
Fair.
You do get vibes of a lot of movies. Like a lot of those shots, especially the shot when he's on the roof and you see the Eiffel Tower in the background. That's like a 28 Days Later. I wouldn't even say it's necessarily an homage, but it's definitely like the same feeling of Cillian Murphy in front of Big Ben. Like it's the same thing, pretty much. It's the same feel.
Oh yeah, I compared this to 28 Days Later and I Am Legend for sure.
Yeah.
Let's start with the party and the eventual start of the zombie apocalypse. How did you guys feel about the opening of it being him at this party, and it turns out to him being the only one left after this party?
I mean, I kind of have a theory about the movie, but I don't think it was like the strongest in regards to like setting up this character, because Sam is pretty much who we deal with for the whole movie. But I really did like the actor, and it did work for me. But if it doesn't, then like you're probably not gonna like this movie. But I just kind of wish there was a little bit more with this kind of ex-girlfriend relationship, or just more about Sam. But at the same time, like you do get a good sense of him as a person. That it seems like he is kind of a recluse. Like he's not really going out right now. Like because she's like, "Come on, just stay, have a drink," and he's like, "Dude, I just want my tapes," and I'm like, "Gotta go back home and not leave my house," type of vibe. So you kind of get the sense that maybe he is a lonely person anyways, or he's just not really wanting to even go out in the world. But yeah, he gets stuck at this party and he gets punched in the face, and he sure wakes up to something.
John, how about you?
Yeah, I think like I'll definitely get into my larger feelings about this movie in general, but like it's a decent setup given the fact that like, and not spoiling anything, this is a movie where like not a lot happens on purpose. So the lack of setup, the lack of character development before actually getting to the actual zombie apocalypse, I think is deliberate in a sense, and it's a real juxtaposition between like just how busy that party was and like everything that comes after. It's just like it's literally peaceful. It's like a peaceful zombie apocalypse after that.
Yeah, I will say, yeah, it is kind of like more that we've seen. If you've seen a lot of zombie apocalypse style movies that take place where it's just one person in a world of zombies, this is a more like less insane version of it, because you have him starting off by he's always going to his open window to check out what's going on his street, and that's when we get the first portion of that family trying to escape, where the father figure comes out, he jumps into the car and he's just honking the fucking horn. The one thing you don't want to fucking do is make more noise, but this man is just fucking slamming on that horn, and the rest of the family comes out, and that's when they all get attacked and die within a second. What did you guys feel about this first kind of action sequence?
To be honest, I don't really remember a lot of the action scenes because I was more focused on like the character study of Sam. Because again, it feels more like it's a character study with the zombie apocalypse as like the background. So to be honest, I don't really fully remember that, but I did watch this movie a few days ago.
Yeah, I think like this is like an anti-Walking Dead, right? It's like the anti-28 Days Later, anti-Walking Dead. It's like this movie is not defined by the action, which makes the action when it happens really realistic, because it's the action only really happens when Sam deliberately gets surprised or deliberately makes a mistake, because he's meticulous. He's a meticulous.
Yeah.
You could tell, like like Melissa said, he clearly after this breakup, or maybe before or after this breakup, he is like alone. He is alone. He's a lonely, alone person, and he's comfortable being alone. So, and that comes across like right away, like just how quickly he like organizes everything around himself.
And the first big thing that he does, that he figures out, is after the shotgun blast through the apartment below him, and right away he assumes that there's going to be another person there that maybe he can actually team up with or at least talk to. And when he looks underneath, he sees that the dude has blown off his face. And you see that the woman that's tied up that looks like she was a zombie. And you can kind of piece together what happened with that group right there. But yeah, this definitely is a movie where he is dealing with loneliness throughout, and how he that's where the I Am Legend-ish part comes in there, because it's very Will Smith-ish, where he has everything meticulous, he has everything the way he wants it to try to not only survive what's going on outside, but to kind of try to help keep his sanity inside, which he uses a lot of the music to help with that as well. He gets his tapes, and then he also has his drum kit, which comes into play very briefly, but very great. What did you guys feel about the neighbor scene, and including the parts where we just see him kind of live through this for the next little bit?
Yeah, like how quickly he like realizes the situation he's in. Like, you know, the street's dangerous. You don't know. And then he kind of like clears the building to his best of his ability, because he goes into the one apartment where the three family members are still alive, and they swarm him, and he barely gets out of the apartment. Then he's like, nope, and he crosses the door off. Like, don't go back in there. And he has all the keys to all the apartments on a pegboard on his wall. He has all the food he's scavenged, and he has like an inventory. He has his calendar marked on a filthy window. He takes time to clean the floors. Like, these are not things I would do in the zombie apocalypse, but Sam is a great character.
Yeah, I forgot to mention when I saw the actor of Sam, I really, really liked him in The Worst Person in the World. So it was I had never seen him in anything else. So it was cool to see him again as kind of a lead in this. But anyways, no, I guess to get more into like my theory of the movie, or like I kind of see it as like a metaphor for a breakup, and I think that's why I'm okay with him being a little bit underdeveloped as a character, because I think it's just more he's a symbol of somebody who's going through a breakup, and just again the whole movie is like a symbol of like dating and breakup scenario type of things. Like, for example, when you break up, a very common thing to do is listen to music, and so like that's a big thing in this movie. And he's a musician, and obviously he's alone, and I think that's just like an outlet for him to express himself, to keep himself entertained. And I think a lot of times, in times of loneliness or times of feeling down, like you kind of find ways to maybe express yourself, or to like let that energy out. And this weirdly felt like a good like COVID movie, even though it's like not a COVID movie, but like it definitely gave me those vibes, just because I think a lot of us maybe felt the way that Sam did during that time.
Yeah, I think going on with the loneliness thing, he gets like his mental state is declining through this movie, because he is extremely lonely, that he sees this stray cat and he just wants company. So he's willing to risk his life to go grab that cat, and almost gets himself killed. And that's when he thinks he's bitten. And he falls asleep with the shotgun, where it looks like he's gonna do what the fucking neighbors underneath him did. And it's just showing like, and then when he wakes up and he sees that even the streets are now empty, to where he doesn't even see really any zombies or anything. He's so fucking lonely that he decides to use that drum kit to try to, in a way, I think it's in a way he's trying to see if anybody else is out there, but he also wants he's so fucked up at this point that he kind of wants the zombies back. Like, he just wants to see people, even if they're fucking zombies in general, that he starts playing it as loud as he could. And the zombies come to try to fucking attack him up to the balcony. Yeah. What did you guys feel about this portion?
I think if I listed a top 10 of scenes where I personally relate to a character in a movie, Sam risking his life for the cat is got to be in it's probably top 5. I was like, I would do that too. Like, I would do that if there were more zombies out there. Like I definitely buy that being that's a real human thing to do. It's probably one of the most real things that happens in this movie. Yeah, him risking the life for the cat is A level, S level.
Yeah, no, I think that's why his character really worked. I found him very genuine, and I felt like a lot of the decisions he makes throughout the film feel very human, feel very realistic. Yeah, and I loved the scene of him kind of playing the drums and screaming and having the kind of zombies pile up. but he's like, whatever. Like, I don't know. Like, maybe he felt good about it. I don't really know what he felt in that moment, but
Yeah.
I liked it visually.
Just doing like really serious punk drum fills. Then he pulls the bass drum up and he's like screaming at the zombies. Like, that's great. That's like he's safe, but he knew he was safe the whole time, but he just wanted that. He wanted that interaction, even if it's with dead people.
Yeah. Which brings us to he thinks that a zombie's outside of his apartment door, so he inadvertently shoots a shotgun, wanting to just get him away. And it turns out that he shoots a woman, Sarah, and he brings her in, and there's actually another person alive that he can actually talk to. And he sees that she has that hook, the Batman grappling hook that she's been using to get from rooftop to rooftop, and he sees that, and we look at that as, hey, there's a way to escape now. There's a way that they can actually escape, and he's talking to her throughout the night, how she survived and how she wants to get out of that apartment in general. What did you guys feel of finally him able to talk to an actual other human being?
She's a great character. I mean, more on that later. I'd only seen her in one of the things. She's Adam Driver's wife in Patterson, so I recognized her from that.
Yes.
But like, she was good. And the conversation they have, which is kind of goes back to Melissa's point about like this being a metaphor for like going through relationships. Like, she's the one that challenges his worldview, where it's like, so what, you're just gonna stay here forever? Like, if you could die, if you leave the building, you could, like, if you give your heart away, essentially, it could get broken. And she's like, well, but you got to do it anyway. Like, I don't stay anywhere for more than a week. I have to keep going. And so it does lean into exactly what Melissa says. I do believe this movie is a metaphor for the cycle that you go through after a relationship.
Yeah, like, I think her kind of character symbolizes like maybe like a rebound type of person, or even like, I don't know, I feel like sometimes when you go through breakups, it doesn't even need to be like maybe a romantic relationship, but like you said, like somebody who's kind of maybe challenging your worldview or like your mental state to kind of get you out of that space to move on.
Which, by moving on, he decides that, hey, he's going to listen to her and he wants to actually leave. But when he comes back to tell her she's dead, and it seemingly looks like this whole conversation he had with her was just in his head, and that he had killed her with a shotgun earlier, which just shows his mental state, where his mental state is actually at. But it gets, like Melissa has brought up, it does get him that release to finally move forward, which he burns the tapes finally. He releases a neighbor, which we didn't really talk about, which he had captured, and then he releases the neighbor, and he uses the rooftops to get the fuck away, and that's where we get to see the view of Paris and all the rooftops throughout. What did you guys feel about the ending of this movie?
I loved the ending. I thought it, again, kind of symbolizes, the moving on, or there's like a phrase or something I wanted to say, but I lost it. But like, just like taking a leap of faith. I think that's what I was trying to go for.
Yeah.
But like just trying to put yourself out there, be vulnerable, all those type of things. Because again, as it was established early on in the movie, that he is a lonely person and struggling with this breakup, and then obviously the zombie apocalypse happens, and that just deteriorates his mental health. And I think the zombie background just kind of emphasizes that loneliness that he was kind of already experiencing. So it was a happy ending, I would say, hopeful ending.
Keep building on this point. It's like, they always, whenever he's in that building, they deliberately shoot it like from above, or like they shoot it to the street that's really wide to show it, because when he's talking to Sarah, he's like, it's impossible, we can't make this jump, whatever. And then like he does make the leap of faith, like he swings to the building, knocks himself out, he's bleeding from his head. So it's like he got hurt, like he tried and he got hurt, but he makes it to the rooftop. And then the camera angle changes, and you could see all the rooftops. I guess symbolize like all the options have, like how all the hope there is in the world.
Yeah.
Like he has everywhere to go now. So yeah, and like that, and if you look at the movie objectively, all it is a guy going from one building to another building. If you look at it subjectively, there's a ton here, and that's what makes the movie great.
Which we also hear a couple small noises as he's looking at the rooftops, indicating that there could be other survivors out there that aren't zombies, which gives him the last hope that he probably wanted as well. Is there anything that we haven't really touched upon with this movie that you guys would like to bring up? Which I totally forgot to put the spoiler warning up, so sorry for everyone that I forgot.
Spoiler.
Spoilers.
Yeah. We just spoiled the shit out of it, so if you're waiting for the spoiler warning, there you go.
Watch this movie anyway. Like even
Yeah.
if we spoil, watch the movie anyway because like it's a visual experience too. So watch the movie.
Oh yeah. But yeah, I guess let's get right to the reviews of this movie. Let's start with John this time. John, what did you give the rating 0 out of 5 VHS tapes?
When I first watched this movie, I didn't really rate it as high as I rate it now because I really started to realize all the stuff Melissa was talking about when I watched it again. So now it's up to a 4. It'll probably go even higher if I watch it again. And it's really only a 4 just because like really it is a low budget indie movie. Not that it suffers, not that it needs a bunch of gore or anything. This is not a movie that relies on gore. There's a few there's a few scares, there's a few action sequences, and it's one of these movies like I don't really ascribe this label to too many horror movies. Maybe that one, but this movie's beautiful. It's a beautiful movie. Like it's everything about it. The more you think about it, it like the horror really melts away, and it really is like it's a thing of beauty. And I would recommend it to anybody. For any, even if you're not a horror fan, I recommend this movie to anybody because the zombie shit is like secondary to the actual movie.
Melissa, how about you?
Yeah, I really enjoyed the movie. I think it's gonna go up on a rewatch. So initially I would say 3.5. So I'm just a 3.5 type of girl this week. It's a really interesting zombie movie because it does focus more on the mental state of our main character Sam and versus like the actual threat of zombies, which I feel like that's typically more the focus of a zombie-centric film. So I thought this was unique, and I liked the metaphor of a breakup with it. And I think it's definitely worth your time if you haven't seen it.
I like that. And yeah, it's very hard to pull off a movie where it's basically just one character and having to interact by himself. It's extremely difficult to pull that off in a great way, and I think they did a pretty good job with that. It is definitely an independent movie, but if you like these type of movies, I definitely think you should check it out. I also gave it a 4. I like everything they did with it. I like the small action scenes throughout, but I also like what we brought up with the whole mental state. I love how we see his mental state deteriorate as this movie is going on, but it also he finally gets the release he's been wanting, and he finally is moving on from the breakup that he's had, and he wants to move on from this apartment complex and the zombies that he has encountered with. I think it's really well done. But yeah, I would definitely be up for rewatching this because I think it's a good time, and there's a lot that you can get out of this movie for sure. But yeah, there you go. We have reviewed Evil Dead Rise and Night Eats the World. Let's talk about next week. Who wants to bring up the 2 movies that we're going to be talking about next week?
Oh, Melissa's got it.
So this might be my most anticipated movie of the year besides Barbie, which is coming out later this year, which is not horror, but maybe it will be. I don't know.
Yeah.
But the movies that we're going to talk about next week is Beau is Afraid, the 3-hour epic by Ari Aster. I may or may not have seen it already, and I may or may not go see it again. And then we're also going to be reviewing Anguish, which I don't know much about. It was recommended by the group here. It is from 1987, I believe it was.
Yep.
That's all I really know. So, but those are our 2 movies for next week.
John, are you excited for next week?
I'm excited to rewatch Anguish. I mean, when we were trying to pair, we always try to pair the movies together, and Melissa's like, mommy issues, and I was like, well, Anguish, goddammit, I mean, let's go. So that's good. And Beau is Afraid, I've been psyched for too. I mean, like Ari Aster, he hasn't missed yet, and from what I heard, the guy don't miss. So I'm excited to go see Beau is Afraid.
Yeah, I'm also in the same boat. I really love me some Ari Aster, and he has not missed yet, so I'm very excited for this movie. And I love me some Anguish, so I'm gonna love to rewatch the hell out of that movie. But yeah, everybody, make sure to watch those 2 movies before next week. Next Thursday, it's gonna be coming out. Make sure to check this out when it releases on Thursday at noon Eastern, as usual. Also, set list is Thursday night as usual. We should be having a late shift this Friday as well, so make sure to check that out. And Movies Are My Life just released this past week with Video Store's own Kelly Meehan. So go check out that. That was a great episode.
And the long-awaited debut of Trivia League Unlimited is coming.
Yes.
So, or next week, who knows? One weekend, you're going to see it. It's coming. I promise.
Yeah, that is coming real soon, and I'm very excited for that. I've been a part of a couple of the matches that I've been filming, and we got some great shit coming with that. So I'm very excited to see what happens with that. Thank you everybody for watching as usual, and we will see you next week for Why We Love Horror.
Why, she wouldn't even harm a fly.
Hurry back. Be sure to bring your death certificate.